Hi everyone, I've managed to make it back to my office in the UK quite quickly. It's been quite a tiring weekend for me, I'll be honest. Went to Monaco Wednesday, came back to England on Thursday. I had a shakedown of a couple of cars for the Williams Fam Day we have next weekend. Then went back on Friday, came back on Sunday, and I wasn't exactly relaxed when when I was in any of these places. So I feel a bit tired this morning. Anyway, what a fairly dramatic weekend in Monaco. The race itself, I'll be honest, wasn't the most exciting, but the way the weekend unfolded, I think it was could be a pivotal weekend in the World Championship battle. We got there on Thursday at the circuit at free practice 1, and Hamilton hit the ground running. He was straight out there, straight on it. Both Mercedes looked really good. But as the weekend progressed, FP2, they looked completely lost, and Lewis looked like he was overdriving it, chasing grip that wasn't there, started to make mistakes, going down escape roads, cutting chicanes. He never put his lap together on those qualifying simulations, and Valtteri didn't seem happy either. They were down in 8th and 10th. And then really the big question mark came, okay, is that actually real, or what's going on here? We got to FP3 on Saturday, and the people have an extra day to think about things. And we got to FP3, and again Lewis didn't seem to put a lap together, whereas Valtteri put his lap. He jumped ahead of the Red Bulls. He was within 4/10 of Seb, but still 4/10 away. And I think that the short wheelbase Ferrari, we sort of expected to be strong in Monaco, but they were really, really strong. And when you look at the race pace as well, it was pretty devastating, really, their pace. I mean, I'm just looking here, the numbers and fastest lap. Seb did a 15.2, Kimi 15.5, Lewis 15.8. So that's, okay, you got different tyres at different times, but it's a reasonable difference anyway. But on to qualifying, because that is the pivotal point of the weekend, actually. I think Monaco, we all spend days and days and days banging on about the importance of qualifying, but it's so true. If you don't qualify well, your whole Sunday is just compromised. It's not everything, as Seb and Kimi showed, and I'll come back to that, but it's so important. And I think it was great to see Kimi Raikkonen get pole position. I did a bit of analysis, don't know how many of you saw it on the Channel 4 coverage of the weekend, but it's still on the website. I did some analysis looking at the two Ferrari drivers, their best qualifying laps, and it was amazing. It wasn't actually just one sector or one corner. It actually went back and forth. Seb was ahead in turn 1 and sector 1. Kimi got it back through Mirabeau and Massenet. And then, Seb pulled time back through Tabac in the swimming pool, and then Kimi did it back at the last couple of corners. So it was interesting listening to Mark Webber, because he actually said to us before qualifying that he was always faster than Seb through Rascasse every year. And sure enough, that's actually where Seb lost pole. He was about half a tenth ahead when he went into Rascasse, and Anthony knows, and he came out that half tenth behind. So it was pretty fascinating qualifying, and actually I think we were all excited to see Kimi get pole, but I think we shouldn't downplay the job Valtteri did, because in Q2 he was already 3/10 ahead of Lewis. If you take Lewis's lap until he got that yellow flag for Stoffel, he was still about 3.5 tenths down on Valtteri at that point. So I'm not counting the actual lap time in the end, but I'm saying just if you look at the lap that Lewis aborted even, the one he actually put the time on the board was 1.2 seconds off, because he kept aborting his laps. But he was still behind Valtteri. He was still and Valtteri's lap in Q3 was stunning. I'm looking at the number there. Within 2 thousandths of Seb, and within half a tenth of Kimi, which, with a car which we didn't believe was as competitive as the Ferrari, I thought that was a sterling effort, really. And sort of reminiscent of Sochi in some way, a track where the grip's not there, the front end bite is not there, and Valtteri just underdrives a little bit to make sure he gets the nose into those corners, and he's able to hook the lap together better than Lewis. And it's quite clear the Mercedes has a very narrow setup window, but I think in these circumstances it does seem like Valtteri is able to extract the lap time and performance better than Lewis is, and that's something I'm sure Pete Ponnington and the Lewis side of the garage are really going to think about as they go forward for the rest of the season, because if they're going to win this World Championship, you'd still have to say he's the favourite of the two Mercedes drivers to be in the fight, but if he's going to win this World Championship, he's going to have to work on that side of things. To the race, the big talking point, obviously start went ahead and then it was sort of status quo. The big talking point was, did Ferrari use team orders to switch them? There were so many tweets and questions and people up and down the paddock speculating. Here's my view. I think Max Verstappen pitted early. He went for the undercut on Bottas. But when he came out of the pits, Max's times weren't great on the super soft tyres, and Valtteri also pitted for super soft, and both of them on the super soft weren't quick enough when compared to Daniel, who was staying on the used ultra soft. And at that point, Ferrari, I think, perhaps didn't look at that enough. They got spooked by Max and Bottas coming in early. Didn't look at the fact, perhaps, that Daniel on the used tyres was actually lapping quicker than them. They weren't able to light up the super softs as quickly as they needed to, and therefore Kimi was complaining, talking about when are we pitting, etc., etc. And I think collectively they opted to bring Kimi in at that point, and Seb obviously stayed out. And when Seb went across the line, and straight away on his what would have been Kimi's outlap, and Seb stayed out, he was lighting up personal best sectors. Then he hammered in fastest lap, and it was like, oh, this is actually going to favour him. I thought Kimi did a very good job actually of switching on the super soft, because he kept the gap quite tight to Seb, but it was quite clear that on this occasion the overcut, effectively staying out longer than the people who were pitting, was a strategy to have. And I don't think it was team orders. My personal belief is I don't think that it was team orders, but I think it was just one of those things, a strategic mistake, which in hindsight is easy to look back and say, oh, they should have done this. But it's so difficult because the tires, the window on the tires is so narrow, it's so tricky to get the tire strategy right with these Pirelli tires, the right temperature. They're so temperamental in some way. It's hard to blame Ferrari, but Kimi's face had the look of thunder on the podium, and I don't blame him. Losing a Monaco win for him, especially after so long of not having won a race, and he drove so well all weekend. But ultimately, those 3 or 4 laps that Seb did won him the Grand Prix, and those are the kind of moments which, when we get to Abu Dhabi, could be defining moments in the World Championship battle. He's now 25 points ahead of Hamilton, Sebastian is, and that is 1 race victory. So he can afford 1 DNF, which they all will at some point. I think he can afford 1 DNF with Lewis winning and still be there, which is psychologically very important. Few other mentions. I think Carlos Sainz did a great job all weekend. Fantastic qualifying lap, I thought, to be right up there. P6, what was he? About a 10th and a half slower than Daniel. Great effort from him. Great result for Daniel, obviously, to get a podium after all the mess ups last year with the pit stop and the strategy. So that's good for him. And Lewis's strategy, it's funny. In the morning, I put a video up on Instagram, and I thought, he's got that is the only card he's got to play. They've got to go long, let people peel out of the way. That used to actually be the old GP2 strategy. If you were out of position and you felt you had a quicker car, you either did 2 things. Either pitted on lap 1 if you were at a track where you knew you had enough free air to hammer it and maybe overtake the slower cars, or if you were at a place like Monaco, you tended to just go long all the way to the end. People will pit, you get free air, go. And that's what they did. So it was a logical strategy. Damage limitation. They got 7th. It's probably the best they were going to do. I think, quick couple of mentions. Jenson Button did a great job in qualifying. That's going to put a bit of pressure on Stoffel in terms of perception around his career, because the guy's come in after 7 months and got within 2/10 of him. That's quite perception is such a funny thing in this business, and Stoffel in the end crashing out of the points in the race as well didn't end well for him. But yeah, lots of talking points. It's been an interesting weekend on the whole, even though the race itself wasn't. And now we'll see what happens in Montreal. I'm off to Le Mans. I'm actually missing the Montreal Canadian Grand Prix because I'm racing at Le Mans. So I've got a crazy week. We've got the Williams Fan Day on Friday, and then I'm heading to Le Mans straight from Silverstone on Friday evening. I'll get to Le Mans about 1 in the morning for the test. Come back a few days at home, and then head back out for the 24 hours. So yeah, pretty manic few weeks ahead. Anyway, bye.